Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. This video is a biggie. This is a Grail green label comic appraisal. So one of the things that I've been doing is a series on green label comics and how does that green label impact the price? And in this case, I'm going to be looking at a Grail, like a major Grail, and looking at how that green label would impact its price. And I want to kind of really explain that this is my interpretation of like what I've seen based on years of experience, but it is no definitive answer to how much a green label is worth. It is really just things that you can sort of use in your life to sort of help you understand how much your green label might be worth and help you maybe get a sense of how much you should appraise it at, or how much you should be selling it at, or how much you should be paying for if you're going to buy a green label. Sometimes it's, if you don't think that that green label is too distracting, it might be worth, buying a comic that is incomplete. This is for incomplete comics. I'm not talking about signature ones. That's a different story, but this is for incomplete comics. And especially with grails, because grails are really expensive. So this is a major grail, and I'm going to show it to you right now. It is Amazing Fantasy number 15, my copy of it. So this is, as you know, this is a very expensive book. In the blue label, not so much in the green. So in a blue label version of this, really, really expensive. And the reason this got the green label is it is missing the coupon. It doesn't impact the story. If you watch my other videos, I was explaining how when the coupon is removed, it really cuts the price of the comic in half. So you can sort of ballpark it based on that. Now I paid $12,000 for this. This was one of my biggest purchases. And it's kind of a shame to spend so much money and still have just a green label. But, for the grade, I thought it was maybe not the fairest of prices, but it was just such a pricey book. It was just the way that I could even hope to afford it. I actually had to put, for about 3 or 4 months, I think it was about 4 months actually, I put installments on buying this comic. I put a little bit down each month and gradually afforded it. So even at that green label, so it's kind of sad, but it's a major grail. It's the first appearance of Spider-Man. So a very cool comic to get. Now, how much does that green label impact the price? Did I overpay for something like this? I paid $12,000. That's a lot of money to pay for one comic and for a green label. So I'm going to show you how to kind of maybe appraise it and see if I overpaid or if it was a good investment. So this is a very well sold, even though it's a Grail comic. Usually with Grails, it's really hard to get accurate pricing or fair market value because there's just not enough sales history because it's a rare comic. Well, Amazing Fantasy 15 is not that rare. It's actually a fairly, compared to some of the Golden Age comics that I collect, it's a pretty common comic. CGC has 3,000 of them. Some of the Golden Age comics that I buy may only have 30 in existence or 200 in existence. So Amazing Fantasy 15 with 3,000 certified comics or CGC comics, that's pretty big number. And it's supply and demand. A lot of people want this comic. So, you can see that it has sales in that $1 million range. If there was a high grade, it would sell for $1 million. And the question is, how much would my 3.0 sell for? And you'll notice, if you look at the blue label, It sold. There was one that sold back in 2020, December, so only last month, for 18,000. Okay, so that was the value that was appraised in December of 2020 for a blue label. So based on that, I kind of overpaid, and I admit that I paid 12. Probably could have, I should have maybe gotten a 1.8 or 1.5 for the same price. It is what it is. You sometimes overpay for things. Now, if I took that comic and sent it back to CGC and said, hey, I want the blue label, they would give me a blue label for it, and I would get a 0.5 because it would be considered incomplete, and it would be worth about 8,200. So it's not necessarily worth doing that. Now, as I said, if you use my rule of thumb, you would get 18,000 divided by 2, which is the half price of it. So it'd probably be worth about $9,000. So more than the 0.5 blue label version of it. So sometimes it's better to leave it as that green label. Now, I'm going to actually how to kind of, with grails, you can, sometimes the price can go up a little bit higher than that half price. And the reason for that is that people will actually pay a little bit extra, even though it's still a green label, just to have that comic. And usually with the lower grades, you'll get this more, where it might not impact the price as much as if it was a high grade. Now, if it's a high grade, nobody's going to pay like $500,000 for a green label. But if it's, if it's in that cheaper range, people might say, okay, well, they might compete a little bit more and pay a little bit extra, even though it's maybe only worth 9,000. They might pay a little bit more and get the green label, but save compared to when buying a blue label, and they will pay that a little extra. So maybe they'll pay 10,000 or maybe as much as I did, which is 12,000 actually. So as I said, I believe that I overpaid for it, just so you know. But let's look at the auction history. So we look at another 3.0 qualified. It sold for $14,475. So this is a married wrap, where the wrap is married. So this is where two comics have been merged into one. Okay, and it's a complete comic, but it is a qualified thing because it's been two comics merged into one. And to me, that's just as bad as having a coupon cut out. Yet that qualified grade received a sale back almost 3 years ago for $14,400. You see how with grails, people sometimes overpay a bit more. So just so you know, that this is why it's a sort of a special video, because I've done a video on having that coupon removed in the past and how it impacted the price. Well, this is the case of a grail, a major grail, that people are just a little bit more willing to pay that extra price. You'll see a married cover also in 2017 sold for $10,000. So, my price that I paid might actually have been kind of fair market value for a green label with an incomplete, with the coupon removed. See how that works? But you'll notice when you go up in higher grades, let's see if we can find a higher grade comic. Let's go up really high. And so you'll see, let me find a really high grade. Let's go up and find a high grade. So this, that's not a good one. Let me find a nice high grade to show you comparison. And I don't think there is any high grade ones. So we'll use a mid grade, 5, okay? Now this was in 2015. It sold for, this one sold for $15,000. So as I said, once it gets into that higher grade, as a green label, it impacts the price more. It's kind of weird. So people still want that high grade, but they won't pay as much as they might within the low grade. It seems kind of weird that that's the case. But what happens is the people that are buying it at that low grade, they want an entry level comic. When they are buying that higher grade comic, they're looking for a higher grade comic, and therefore they're looking for something a little bit more complete. So for example, if you look at the price of this is 2015. So we could say that probably if this comic sold today, it would maybe sell for closer to that 20,000 for that married centerfold. And so 20,000 for 5 is, still higher than half. So maybe it's worth about 2/3 of the price. But if it was even higher, you would see it even more so, where it's going to be a bigger disparity, so more closer to that half the actual price, or even less than half. So as I said, when people are paying that higher amount, they're going to want that blue label a little bit more. Okay, so you're not going to get as much money for it because the collectors are seeking a more high-end product because they're paying high-end prices. So this is something to be aware of. And this mainly applies to grails, or what people perceive as grails. I would say a Hulk 181 would be another situation where people might pay that a little bit extra for that green label, even though they could get a lower graded one, even like a 0.5, that is complete, so, or not complete, but a 0.5. So the point is, with grails, it's a little bit different. There's a little bit of nuance with this. It's not quite that you can use that rule of thumb that you just take the price and chop it in half, and that's how much the green label is worth when a coupon is removed. There's a bit of play there. So maybe you can use the rule of thumb that maybe if it's a true grail, that you can take 2/3 of the price, and that's how much your grail comic would be worth. And that's what you should appraise it at, and that's how much you should be maybe willing to pay to buy one of that caliber. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the last of my series. I tried to give examples of different cases within the green labels and how to sort of figure out the fair market value for them. And it's not 100% certain because there is a little bit of play with these things. But I hope you take a look at all the videos in the series, and it will give you some insight into potentially how to appraise these kind of comics. So thanks for watching, and please check out my other videos. I did a whole series on purple labels, which is another thing that people always ask me about. How much are purple labels worth? So check out that series. There's like 6 or 7 movie videos in that one. So really good series as well. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Bye for now.